you guys. Welcome to this episode of The Rachel Cruze Show. And today I have my friend Chase Keene here because he's one of our Ramsey SmartVestor Pros, which means he is a financial advisor and an expert on all things investing. So like 401ks, Roth IRAs, mutual funds, all of it. So Chase, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So appreciate it.
I'm very excited.
Okay, so financial advisor, a SmartVestor Pro though, for those of you that don't know, they are people all over the country that we here at Ramsey Solutions recommend. Because with your investing, it's just really important to have somebody that has the heart of a teacher, someone that's willing to walk with you and teach you. So we recommend people everywhere. And so Chase is one of those people. But explain what not just a SmartVestor, but what a financial advisor is. Like, what do you do?
So a financial advisor would be someone who is trying to help you meet financial goals. They can be short-term, long-term, and a lot of times, I think the meat of what we do is retirement planning. And then the SmartVestor Pro status is basically saying, hey, we've been vetted by Dave Ramsey. We do the things that you do with your philosophy. We try to have the heart of a teacher and make sure that you just understand what you're getting into.
Yeah. So you're really walking beside people with their money. And again, like you said, short-term, long-term goals. So when someone says, okay, I'm going to set up a meeting with a financial advisor, it feels kind of scary. Like even saying that feels intimidating, right? So what do people expect? Like when you go and meet with a financial advisor, what does that even mean? What does that look like?
Well, what we try to do is try to help you figure out what your goals are. Okay. A lot of people are saying, hey, I've heard I need to do this. I'm not sure if I need to. And so we'll just say, well, what's going on? What's happening in your life? And then we help you make a goal plan and figure out what's important to you. And our job is really trying to figure out, we pull those things out and figure out how we can make a plan for you.
That's good. So someone may say, like, my goal is to retire at 60, or we want to have like a beach house one day. Like, right? Is it those kind of things? It's like these like big kind of far out dreams.
It can be retirement. Hey, I want to retire at age 50, or a dollar amount. Some people will say, hey, if I see this number in my account, or I want to have this net worth, we'll help you get there. Yeah. And there's a lot of efficient ways that we can do that. So that's where we try to come in and actually make this easier than you anticipate. Yes. And then even life changes, like if you have a baby and you need to start education savings or things like that. It doesn't have to be way far out. It can be, hey, this change. So now what do we do about this life situation?
Okay, so you've met with, I'm sure, like hundreds, thousands of people over the years. So what's like a couple of mistakes that you've seen? So someone walks in and they give you their whole spiel. What are things that you see as a financial advisor that you're like, oh man, that you just see those mistakes?
Probably people waiting. I mean, if there's something where you just have a nudge and you're like, hey, I could talk to somebody right now, just go for it and see what happens. And if you're not ready or if there's nothing to work on yet, they'll tell you. So if you just pull the trigger and say, hey, I'm going to start talking about this, thinking about it. And then whether you're married or single or whatever it is, just talking about it with yourself, your friend, your spouse, so that you can begin to dream. This is, I think, a Dave quote or somebody quoted it, but if you aim for nothing, you're going to hit it every time.
Yes.
So if you can just start talking about, well, what are we aiming for?
Okay, so for people, is there anyone that shouldn't see a financial advisor? Is there anyone that you're like, yeah, you don't probably need to? Or is it good for everyone who's working, has an income, has a life, to meet with someone?
I think it's worth having a conversation for just about anybody.
Yeah.
And there are different times when you need to be more involved with a financial advisor and more times when you're less involved. And a lot of times when you're working your way through debt and getting out of baby step 2, it's not quite ready, not quite the right time to be adding to accounts necessarily. I think most people need to have a conversation and just see what they can do.
Yes, that makes sense. Okay. So for people, you mentioned waiting. That's like one mistake where you're like, oh man, you waited. Okay, people that are like, oh, I'm in my 40s and I haven't started investing. Is it too late? Is it too late for them?
Never, ever. I mean, you need to have a plan. You need to have this conversation because if you think 40 is too late, well, what are you going to do? Wait till you're 50 and then just keep kicking it down the road? You need to start planning, start figuring out what you need to do, or else you're going to end up having to make up ground. And the earlier you start, the better.
Yes, absolutely. No, it's so true. I know, because I get that question a lot. Well, I'm this age. Is it too late? I'm like, what if I said yes? What are you going to do? Not do anything? Like at least start something, right?
Exactly.
Like it is. It's so important. Today we're talking about things we need to stop wasting $20 on. Baby shoes. They're babies. They're not walking around. Don't buy shoes for them. Lottery tickets. Yeah, the Powerball jackpot, you got 1 in 292 million chances of winning, so don't waste your money. And Olaf Waffle Maker. I mean, pretty dang cute, I know. And the results? Adorable, but let it go. Wipe warmers. Yeah, the baby's gonna survive. Keep your $20. Clothes for your pets. I mean, super cute, fabulous, bougie, all the things, but you don't need to spend $20 on it. Guys, these things are totally unnecessary. What I do need to make sure I'm taking care of are these guys. I remember when Winston and I first got married and we talked about life insurance. Honestly, it was easy for us to talk about because we wanted to keep each other covered in case the worst were to ever happen. That's why we have term life insurance through Xander Insurance. It's $20 to $30 a month that I am more than happy to spend. Xander shops the top-rated term life insurance companies to make sure that they find you the best rates for the coverage that your family needs. You can have the same peace of mind that we have. So go to Xander.com to get started today. Don't waste any more time. Okay, so for people that are like, okay, I have some money invested, but I kind of doing it on my own. Like, what's the benefit of having an actual professional with you, walking with you through this part of your life versus just doing it solo?
A financial advisor is someone who is in this every single day. They are studying the markets, tax planning, different laws that are changing, and so they know how to be efficient. If you're doing this on your own, you're probably working or have some sort of responsibilities that you're looking after, and then you might look at this on the side and be stressed out about it, not sure what you're missing out on.
Yeah.
And then when you go interview a few advisors, you're going to see how involved they are in the planning and see how comprehensive they can be. And a lot of people are just going to be stuck in a rut, spinning their tires, and a financial advisor can say, hey, if we just turn the wheel a little bit this way, we're going to be hitting this in no time.
I know, and I always tell people, I'm like, when it's like these like really niche parts of your life, really on anything, right? You could say health would be one thing, parenting, marriage, like, but with your money, and then even within your money, like when it's like insurance or taxes or investing, like these really specific things, that there are people that eat and breathe this stuff day in and day out and know everything about it. So I'm like, why not walk with them, have them walk with you, beside you through the stuff, because it can be complicated. And again, you guys know, you see the route. Like it's like part of what you do because you're in it all the time. And you're like, oh no, I can see from point A to point B. You're trying to go to like A, Z, Y, X, like all this, like we can just go here and get the goal. Okay, so what is life in like the investing world? Like what's the difference between now, where we sit in 2022, versus like 2019, like pre-COVID, pre all the stuff? Is it crazy? Like has the market has it been a wild ride the past few years?
It's been a really fun time to be in my role because a lot of times there's a lot of outside stressors going on to where it's like people are freaking out about different things, whether it be their job or being able to travel and live life. And then if we can provide peace on this planning piece, a lot of people have their eye on the investment piece, which is okay. But if we can just make sure that we can control the plan, the investments are going to take care of themselves. So that's where we can come in, and throughout COVID and 2022, even with what's going on right now, it's helping people realize that we can control certain things and we can't control other things. And when we can control what we can control and focus on that, people feel a whole lot better.
So what do you see that you can control, like in the investing world? Like what are things that you're like, we can control not pulling your money out if you're freaking out or something? Like what are a few things that you're like, no, we can control this? Because there's a lot that you can't, like you're saying.
Right. We can control how much we spend, save, and give. I mean, we can control our budget. We can control how much we're continuing to contribute to retirement accounts or other types of accounts. We can control the kind of debt that we take on normally if we have a good emergency fund. And not pulling out of the investments, that's a big piece.
Yes.
And then one other thing that we help with a lot is just taking the appropriate amount of risk. We're not going to be too far on one end of the spectrum or the other for the client, but we're just going to take the appropriate amount of risk based on their goals.
That's so true too, because I'm like, depending on your age, how conservative you want to be with what you're investing versus if you're a little younger, you're like, okay, we can maybe do a couple of things over here that are different, all of that. And you guys know that. Yeah.
Right, because some people are going to be ready to spend their money and in retirement taking accounts or taking funds from their accounts. And others are going to be in accumulation phase to where they're just adding. They can be really aggressive and that'll pay off for them in the long run.
That's awesome. So I feel like one mistake I do see people do with their money is how fear just takes over. And I feel like there's just been a lot of that, right? From like COVID to, the crazy economy to elections to Russia and Ukraine, like all this stuff. It's kind of just like all over the place. And it can be really scary. So do you find people that come in your office and say, oh, I just want to take my money out of the market, it's freaking me out? Do you have to like talk people off the ledge, or are most people like, I'm in it and I'm going to stay in it because it's long term? What do you see?
I say for most people that I work with, they're going to have their expectations set to where, hey, it is going to go down at some point. It just will. I mean, that's the world we live in. News headlines are going to come across, there are going to be fights, there are going to be arguments, drama, and accounts are going to go down. So if we set the expectation clearly on the front end that your accounts will go down, we get much fewer of those calls. And so when people come in and they say, oh, I'm kind of freaking out, then I think we didn't do a good enough job of saying, hey, just, here's what you can expect. We didn't
temper expectations.
We didn't temper expectations.
That's a great point. Okay, that's so good. Yeah. So if someone's watching this or listening to this and they're like, okay, yes, I want to meet with someone, we're getting out of debt, we're getting our emergency fund, we're ready to start investing, and we want to look at our, maybe someone still is in debt and they're working their way out, but they see the finish line and they think, okay, but we do want to sit down with somebody to just look at the landscape of our finances. Walking into a meeting with a financial advisor, what do they need to bring? What can they expect? Like, what is that kind of meeting? What does it look like?
So starting out, just real practical things. You can bring any statements from your accounts. You can bring tax returns, mortgage statements, numbers on your debt. But I think the more important thing that a lot of people miss is they need to just get those juices flowing and either talk to a friend or their spouse about, why am I going to see a financial advisor? What are my goals? Because that's actually the hardest thing to figure out. When you ask someone when they're going to retire, most people can't answer that. They don't know and they haven't thought about it. So if you and your spouse can talk through it.
Yeah.
And say, here's what we want out of a financial advisor. Here's why we're going to meet with them. When you can come and communicate that with a SmartVestor Pro or a financial advisor, they'll be able to build something for you that makes sense.
That makes so much sense. So for retirement, do you find most people shoot for an age or a dollar amount? What do you see? I'm just
More
curious.
people for an age.
Okay. Yeah.
Some people have a
like
dollar
45?
amount. Yeah.
That'd be great. Chase, help me retire at 45.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the cool things that we've started to help with is if someone doesn't know when they want to retire, we'll help them figure out when they can make work optional.
Oh,
Because a lot of people don't want to just quit cold turkey at 55 or 60. They want to say, well, what if I don't want to just grind anymore? What if I want to go work and just have fun doing something that is less stress or something like that?
Totally. Oh, so good.
Yeah.
It's so fun. I love it. I love dreaming about the future and thinking, okay, where are we going? Right? And having people like Chase, like SmartVestor Pros walking beside you. It's so key. So key. So when we close up, one question I always ask my guests, what is one fun thing you're doing with your money right now? And it could be anything. It could be small, big, really great, really shallow. We don't care. We love everything.
Yeah. I have a 4-month-old baby girl, so I'm spoiling her big time. It is. Yeah, that for sure. Is she dressed to like the nines? Oh, yeah. Okay. She's got more pairs of shoes than I do. She's got a full closet that I don't. And it's incredible. So fun. Yeah. That's awesome. That's good. That's a good way to spend money for sure. So great. Well, Chase, thank you so much for coming by and answering these questions. Because again, it's a big subject. Yes. And I think some people it's intimidating or it's kind of this mystery world if they haven't entered into it. So you kind of cracked the door and allowed us a peek inside. So I appreciate it. Thanks, you Rachel. So much. All right, you guys, you can learn more about Ramsey at SmartVestor Pros and how to work with one at ramseysolutions.com/retirement/SmartVestor. Again, this is one big step to help you take control of your money and create a life you love.